Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing a story that you might have actually lived through yourself, and trust me, it's a love story. Are you ready? Let's go! She was 57 years old when she placed her hands on his shoulders to correct his posture and felt something that stopped her breathing completely. And what she discovered about this 29-year-old man in that quiet Los Angeles studio was a secret he had carried alone for his entire life. Oh my goodness, girls. You are not going to believe the story I am about to tell you tonight. I heard this one a few weeks ago, and I have not been able to stop thinking about it since. So pour yourself a glass of something good and listen closely, because this one is something else entirely. Her name was Linda Calloway, 57 years old, living in Los Angeles, California, in a beautiful little apartment in Silver Lake, with plants on every windowsill and a yoga mat that had seen more tears than any therapist ever had. Linda had been teaching yoga for almost 20 years. She was not one of those trendy instructors who posted everything on social media. She was the real kind, the kind who remembered every student's name, every injury, every fear, the kind who showed up at 6 in the morning with a warm smile even when her own heart was heavy. She had been divorced for 9 years. Her daughter lived in Seattle. Her son barely called. And every single night, Linda came home to a quiet apartment and a cup of chamomile tea and the particular kind of loneliness that only women who have given everything to everyone else truly understand. She ran her private studio out of a small rented space on Sunset Boulevard. It was not fancy. Wooden floors, soft lighting, a small speaker that played ambient music all day long. She loved that place more than almost anything in the world. It was hers, completely, entirely hers. And for years, it was enough. Then one Tuesday morning in late October, a man walked through her door and nothing was ever quite the same again. His name was Ryan Mercer. 29 years old, tall, with dark brown hair and the kind of quiet eyes that made you feel like he was always thinking about something 3 conversations ahead of the one you were actually having. He had found her through a recommendation from his physical therapist. He had a recurring shoulder injury from years of competitive swimming and had been told that private yoga sessions might help more than anything else at that point. He was polite when he called. He was punctual when he arrived. And when Linda opened the door and saw him standing there in the morning light, she felt absolutely nothing out of the ordinary. He was just another student, that was all. The first few sessions were entirely professional. Linda was always professional. She guided him through foundational poses, worked carefully around his injured shoulder, gave him modifications and corrections with the practiced ease of someone who had done this 10,000 times before. Ryan was a good student, focused, quiet. He asked smart questions and he actually listened to the answers, which Linda had learned over the years was rarer than it should have been. But somewhere around the 4th session, something shifted. It was small at first, almost invisible. Linda noticed that Ryan never talked about anyone. No girlfriend mentioned in passing. No stories about weekends with friends, no casual references to a social life of any kind. Most of her students, especially the younger ones, could not get through a single session without mentioning someone. But Ryan existed, as far as she could tell, in a kind of careful solitude that she recognized immediately because she had been living in it herself for nearly a decade. She did not say anything. It was not her place. She was his yoga instructor, not his therapist. But then came the session that changed everything. It was a Wednesday afternoon. The studio was quiet. Rain was falling outside in that soft, unusual way it sometimes does in Los Angeles. The kind of rain that makes the whole city feel like it is holding its breath. They were working on a shoulder opening sequence, and Linda stepped behind Ryan to help him adjust his alignment. She placed both hands on his shoulders the way she had done hundreds of times with hundreds of students, and that was when she felt it. The tension in his body was unlike anything she had encountered before. It was not the tension of a tight muscle or an old injury. It was something else, something deeper, something that lived in the bones rather than the tissue. Her hands went completely still without her meaning them to. And Ryan, very quietly, exhaled a breath that sounded like it had been waiting a very long time to come out. Girls, she told me later that in that moment, without a single word being spoken, she understood that this young man was carrying something enormous, something he had never put down, and something he did not know how to put down. She stepped back. She kept her voice calm and professional. But after the session ended and Ryan was rolling up his mat, Linda did something she almost never did. She asked him if he wanted to stay for tea. He looked surprised, then he looked grateful. And he said yes. They sat across from each other at the small table near the window, and the rain kept falling outside, and Linda let the silence sit between them for a while before she gently said that she had noticed he seemed to carry a lot of weight for someone so young. She was not prying, she told him. He did not have to share anything he did not want to share, but she wanted him to know that she was listening if he ever felt like talking. Ryan looked at the table for a long moment. And then he looked up at her and said something that Linda said she was not prepared for even a little bit. He told her that he had never in his 29 years of life had a single real relationship, not one. He had dated, he had tried, but every time things became serious, every time someone got close, he found a reason to disappear. He had spent years telling himself it was commitment issues, or timing, or simply not meeting the right person. But the truth, the real truth that he had only recently been able to admit to himself, was that he was terrified. Not of love, not of commitment, but of being truly seen by another person and found to be not enough. Linda sat very still, because she knew that feeling. She knew it better than almost anything else in her life. She told me that she did not say very much in that moment. She just nodded slowly and told him that she understood more than he might think. And something in the way she said it made Ryan exhale again in that same way, like another long-held breath finally finding its way out. They talked for almost 2 hours that afternoon, about loneliness, about the strange courage it takes to keep showing up for your own life when it feels like nothing is really waiting for you on the other side, about the way some people learn to make peace with silence and others never quite manage it. Linda shared things she had not said out loud in years, and Ryan listened the way he always listened, completely, carefully, like every word mattered. By the time Linda locked up the studio that evening, something had quietly and permanently rearranged itself inside her chest. She drove home in the rain and sat in her car in the parking garage for a long time before going inside, and she thought to herself, very clearly, that she had not felt this particular feeling in a very long time. The feeling of being genuinely interested in another person, of wanting to know more, of looking forward, with something close to happiness to the next time she would see someone. She told herself it was nothing. She told herself she was being ridiculous. She was 57 years old and he was 29 and she was his yoga instructor and none of this was anything at all. But Ryan came back the following Wednesday and the Wednesday after that, and each time after the session ended, he stayed for tea. And each time they talked longer than the time before. And each time Linda drove home in the dark, she sat in her car a little longer before going inside. It was Ryan who said it first. Of course it was Ryan, because Linda, despite everything, despite all those years of quiet courage in her little studio, could not quite bring herself to say it out loud. It was a Thursday evening in December. The city lit up with holiday lights outside the studio windows, and Ryan had stayed later than usual, and they had been talking about nothing in particular and everything that actually mattered, and he looked at her across the small table and said, very simply and very directly, that he thought about her all the time, not as his instructor, as Linda, as the person who had somehow, without either of them planning it, become the most important part of his week. Linda sat very still. Her tea had gone cold. And then, because she was 57 years old and had learned the hard way that life does not offer these moments twice, she told him the truth. That she thought about him too. That she had been trying very hard not to. That she was aware of every single reason why this was complicated and probably unwise. And that none of it had made the smallest bit of difference. Girls, I want to sit with this story for just a moment before I let you go. Because I think it deserves that. I think Linda deserves that. Here is what gets me every single time I think about this. Linda was not looking for anything. She had made her peace, or something close enough to peace, with the life she had built. Her studio, her plants, her chamomile tea. She had stopped expecting the unexpected a long time ago. And then one Tuesday morning, a quiet young man with sad eyes and a shoulder injury walked through her door and reminded her, completely without meaning to, that the heart does not actually check your age before it decides to feel something. I think about all the women I know, all the women you know, who have decided somewhere along the way that a certain chapter of their lives is simply over. that certain feelings belong to younger versions of themselves. That wanting more is somehow greedy or foolish or embarrassing at this point. And I think about Linda sitting in her car in that parking garage in the rain, and I want to tell every single one of those women what I am telling you right now. It is not over. It is never entirely over. And the moment you decide it is, that is the moment you stop being available to the thing that might be walking toward you right now. Okay, girls, that is our story for tonight, and I genuinely hope it gave you something to think about. Because it certainly gave me something to think about. If you are sitting somewhere right now and this hit a little closer to home than you expected, I want you to know that you are not alone in that. Not even a little bit. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something, if it reminded you of yourself or someone you love, please leave a comment down below and tell me about it. I read every single one, and I mean that. This little community we have built here is one of the most genuine things in my life, and your words matter to me more than I can properly say. And if you have not already, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a story. I come back every week with something new, something real, something that I hope makes you feel a little less alone in whatever it is you are carrying tonight. I will see you next time, girls. Take good care of yourselves. And remember, the best stories are never really over. They are just waiting for the next chapter to begin.